Hello and welcome to the Mommy's Anonymous podcast. I'm Jake Allen. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here with my lovely sister Angela Sexton and the author of the Mommy's Anonymous blog. And today we're going to talk about a blog that she wrote a couple of months ago.
It was last month, I think.
It was last month.
Mm-hmm.
It's simply entitled Seriously, and it is about kind of a epidemic that's happening in our nation. It's the sort of Hooters. What did you call them?
The Suburban Titty Bar. Yes.
Well, there was another term. It was
the restaurants.
Restaurants.
The restaurants. Yes. That was. Actually, I got a comment on that particular blog from a place called the Restaurant Report. I don't know that they really agreed with my assessment.
Well,
but
considering they're affiliated with, or they are the organization that sells the
uniforms,
scantily clad uniforms.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they didn't. It's really odd that they would repost that, but
I know, that was strange, but you know.
Anyway, so we're just going to kind of go through this blog post and talk about it. Did you want to open us up with any sort of beginning thoughts?
Well, first of all, I just kind of wanted to say that, you know, this is directed to people who believe in the truth of Scripture. Obviously, if you are your standard for what's right and what's wrong, I can't really address that. So this is for Bible-believing Christians, and I am issuing a challenge, basically, for us to think about the things that we condone and the things that we do in regards to our marriage. I feel very much like our society devalues marriage so much. I mean, not even just looking at the divorce rate, but you know, when I was in the workplace and stuff like that, and people would ask me, you know, hey, let's go to happy hour and stuff like that, and I would be like, you know, not that I'm opposed to going and grabbing a drink with friends, but I wanted to go home and see my husband, and people would look at me like I had just told them I was going to go home and wash my hair. You know, it was like they thought that was so weird.
Okay, you're going to go home and be with your husband.
Yeah, like
whatever.
Whatever. You know, you just don't want to hang out with us. It was just the strangest phenomenon because I didn't grow up in environments like that. You know, obviously you and I grew up in church where values, you know, marriage was valued and spending time with
I mean, we grew up and we witnessed a great marriage. Our parents, that they loved each other and they wanted to spend every moment together. And I mean, probably oddly so, especially in the culture today. But they still spend all their time together. They can hardly go any place without each other, and so
it's a little weird. They don't even go to the doctor not with each other. But you know,
I don't know if that's weird. I don't know. Who knows what weird and normal is anymore? But yeah. So your husband, my brother-in-law Wheeler, had an invitation to one I'd never heard of apparently. And so you talk about that a little bit more in your blog as well.
Yeah, incidentally, this one was called Twin Peaks. There's Hooters, of course, everybody knows that one. And there's Twin Peaks. There's actually a place called Bone Daddy's as well. Yeah. Okay, and then I saw one actually recently called Bikinis, and I haven't done a lot of research on that one too. But
I appreciate the descriptive names at least. At least it's not. Yeah, Twin Peaks is a little ambiguous, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, Bikinis just hits it right there on the nose.
Yeah, it's a little obvious. So is Hooters, really. Don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that one out. And you know, like I pointed out in my blog, their websites advertise this. This is not like subversive or like they're pretending to be a good institution.
They're not being sneaky.
Yeah, they're not being sneaky. They're saying that, you know, this is a place where you can come and drool on women, basically. So, and drink your beer and have your hamburger or whatever. So, I guess one of the first things...
you don't understand. They just have really good wings.
Oh, be quiet. I just want everyone to know that I have actually eaten wings from Hooters because when I worked at a bank, they had an account with us and they would bring the wings to us. And they're not that good, okay? Wingstop is better. Wings and Things, Wingstop, and they wear all their clothes.
By the way, they are not a sponsor of this podcast.
No, they're not.
So
no,
that's
no, they're
totally
not.
Objective.
They're not a sponsor, but I'm just saying that, you know,
that would be awesome if
their waitresses. Jake, stay focused.
Sorry.
No, I'm just saying, though, that they have all their clothes on, and their wings are way better. So your only excuse to go to these places, as I state in the end of my podcast, is if that you're wanting to get as close to the line as you possibly can without technically feeling like you've gone to a strip club. And you don't want to tell your friends that you went to a strip club. But if you say you went to Hooters, well, somehow that's not as bad, and I just don't get it. So I guess one of the first things I wanted to do is I wanted to ask my charming little brother here.
Oh, stop.
Since you're a man and a Christian, I wanted to kind of get your feeling. A lot of people think that I am too extreme or too harsh on this subject, and so I wanted to ask you, as a dude and a Christian, am I being too harsh? Am I being too extreme on the subject of indulging, viewing the going to these restaurants and supporting these institutions as indulgence of the flesh?
Well, I don't think. I mean, have you experienced pushback from believers, really? Christians?
I have actually gotten some pushback from believers, yes.
I would
Professing Christians.
I'd be interested to hear that argument. I guess, I mean, that's not as far as of a stretch. There's kind of a whole shift in our culture, even among women, towards this. I mean, it's like 50 Shades of Grey, Magic Mike, all this stuff that's coming out. Like, there's this general acceptance of a promiscuous culture, basically, which I think is really, really sad, and for a number of reasons. One, I mean, I think you can attack it from several different ways. Of course, from Scripture, as a believer, it's very, very clear that this is not an appropriate thing. This is not a healthy thing for a marriage, for individuals. I think C.S. Lewis hit the nail on the head in the Screwtape Letters when he was talking about how, through the perspective of the demons, that they see us as food, and that's kind of what lust is seeing human beings as just something to consume for your lust. Like, you're just trying to feed your lust with a body, and that's what pornography is. That's what Suburban Titty bars are. That's what all of this is just a way of feeding your flesh, and that's very, very dark. So I think absolutely for believers that's a huge, I don't even see how that's a question. For non-believers, I think you kind of have to address both of them. I think just being respectful of your wife if you're married, and just respectful of women as a whole. Whether you believe it or not, over time you will see them as just objects, and it'll just be food for your lustful desires. So, I don't think that's hard or a stretch at all. And so I think as a believer, we need to challenge each other. We need to challenge our culture to say that this is wrong. And unfortunately, it's becoming so widely accepted even among women, which is really shocking if you think about where we've come just in the last 20 years with, the genders and all. I mean, the acceptance of pornography, especially. That's just something that's what men do. And even women, like I was talking to my fiancée a while back about how pornography among women is really exploding in the United States, and I'm sure around the world, because they're getting exposed to it at a younger and younger age.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so it's actually changing how women perceive
sexuality.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is all-out war on marriage, on how we see each other and respect each other, and these are not benign little, I'm going to go get some wings and maybe see an attractive woman sort of thing. It's not as simple as that. I think it's very, very dark. I think it's a spiritual attack on our nation and on our culture, on our marriages, and on our families. So
I definitely agree with that, and again, one thing I really would like to emphasize is these restaurants are definitely, I think, born out of a very dark thing, but I am also targeting our hearts. My challenge is, where is your heart? What is your motivation? Why are you going to these places? I'm challenging us to think as Christians about what we do and where our heart is, and do we take the words of God seriously? Do we feel like they're things that apply to us for our enjoyment? That's the thing that I get frustrated with, is because people seem to view those of us who want to keep sex and attraction and romance in our marriages. We get our appetite in our marriage and we eat in our marriage. Okay? We don't get our appetite somewhere else and then we eat at home, because eventually you're going to eat where you get your appetite.
Well, even if you don't, that's not the point. Especially for a believer. Christ in the Sermon on the Mount, I think it was a Sermon on the Mount. He's saying that even if you look at a woman with lust, you've committed adultery. There's no difference. He goes beyond the external, superficial look that the law
Right.
gives. He goes into the heart, and he's saying, what's the difference? Like, okay, so you haven't done that with your body. So
Mhm.
what? Like, your mind and your heart have already done that. So.
Right, and that is so true. But it feels like that those of us who want to keep in our marriage our sexuality are viewed as somehow the enemy of pleasure, and I want to combat that because God created pleasure. He created, I referenced several scripture verses in my blog post about this subject, about God commanding us to, particularly Proverbs 5:17 through 19, about rejoicing in the wife of your youth. Let her breast satisfy you at all times. That is not a platonic statement. He is implying that you are to be enjoying your wife's breasts. So he is the
I don't think that's
author.
an implication. I feel like that's a full-out statement.
Right. I'm just saying, it's a term. So he's telling you, enjoy your wife and enjoy sexuality with her. So that means he's not the enemy of pleasure. He's not the enemy of sex. He's not the enemy of enjoying these things. He's the author of it, and he's trying to protect us from destroying this beautiful, awesome, fun, exciting thing that he created in sex for your marriage. And
Well,
he doesn't want you to degrade it. He doesn't want you to lose it or lessen it by viewing your wife or your husband as an object. We're people. It's designed to be a soul connection.
well, and I feel like there's been a lot of great things that have come out in the last 20 years from Christian organizations and pastors and all that kind of stuff that are recognizing, finally recognizing that sex is not a bad thing. It's not. It's something
Yeah.
we should talk about. Something that we should celebrate in a way, and that there's finally studies of the Song of Solomon, Tommy Nelson, Matt Chandler, all these guys that are coming out with
Absolutely.
great
Those
studies.
are must reads, by the way, or those are DVD things.
Yeah,
And
I don't
on my
think I have books
website,
on it.
actually, I link to the Hub, which is a place where you can get those studies, and I recommend them for any marriage. Any marriage, you should definitely make that a part of your library. So anyway, so the point of my post was really about challenging your heart, examining the scriptures, and just making us think about what we're doing and how it affects who we are as Christians and who we are in our marriages. And, I just, more than anything, I want to encourage people to fight for their marriage, because marriage and family is the basis by which a society is built. And if we bring God back into our families and our marriages, and we begin to love and show grace and have God just infect those areas of our life, the world changes
Well,
slowly
I
but
think,
surely.
and
So,
kind of what I took away from your post too is, if you're a man, then to take a stand, and if you're a wife, to lovingly encourage your husband, and maybe even challenge him a little bit on that.
yeah, don't nag, it doesn't work. So,
But to take a stand and say, like Wheeler, which I'm proud of my brother-in-law, say no, like I'm not going to do that, not in a judgmental sort of way, which I can absolutely guarantee you, if you, like you said at the beginning of the podcast, if you say no, they're going to give you some pushback on it, which
oh yeah,
Scripture, in the book of, I think it's First Peter, talks about, they heap abuse on you when you don't go into all sorts of whatever they're doing. They're going to heap abuse on you because that puts judgment, that makes their conscience scream out a little bit like, I'm doing something wrong. So, to expect pushback, we've all experienced that already in our lives, I'm sure. But it's worth taking a stand for your marriage, for our community and our culture and our nation as a whole. So that's really what I took away from your post as
yeah,
well. So,
absolutely. Well, I think that's about all we have to say on the subject.
well, yeah. We want to hear from you guys. You can leave a comment on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter or however you want to connect, or even the website. We'll be doing this as a monthly podcast, and we hope that you've enjoyed it and that you'll come back and listen to us again. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again in a month.